How we begin?
All right, you can begin.
So today will be a presentation on understanding others. This has been done by Nicholas George, Justin Maypat, and myself, Lauren Hill. Today's learning objectives will highlight individuality and commonality, understanding gender diversity, understanding cultural diversity, understanding diversity, your cultural heritage, building multicultural appreciation, attitudes towards differences, cultural influences on leadership behavior, and lastly, leadership and communication. Today's presentation focuses on a few aspects of understanding others as it relates to gender, ethnicity, and culture to show how understanding diversity is essential to achieving inclusive and inspiring leadership. This presentation also explores various leadership processes, including communication, conflict resolution, and decision making that are influenced by diverse approaches. Lastly, we would explore how the use of empathy and assertiveness are effective communication skills to understanding others in leadership roles. Now pass you over to Justin that will be doing the first part, individuality and commonality.
Good evening, everyone. So today we're going to touch on one of the topics, which is individuality and commonality. So individuality and commonality, you have to understand the value system, the psychological preferences, also as well as the differences between us and others. Also, to others might be similar to you or very different from you. Even if others look the same, they may have different values, preferences, or approaches to learning. It emphasizes on the importance of finding human purpose and common commitments to create a sense of we in a group. This requires understanding ourselves, modifying our behaviors and attitudes to encourage openness and connection, and engaging in the hard work of understanding others from meaningful communities and coalitions for group change. This topic it's going to highlight the importance of understanding the pluralism of a group, which refers to the plethora of differences that needs to be understood to accomplish shared purposes. There's a quote from Kathy Reagan. She was formerly a student government president at Rowan University. And she says, I believe that every individual can provide a new perspective on a situation, no matter what your experiences are. They are different from mine, and therefore, we seeing things differently. Using this perspective in addition to one's idea allows for better communication, better solutions, and better leadership. Next slide. Oh, go back, Lauren. Sorry.
The poet Maya Angelou
Oh,
has a remarkable insight on the commonalities of being human. In her poem, Human Family, she describes all of our uniqueness as people that set us apart, but concludes, we are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. So there will be a video that highlights our uniqueness. In any group setting, you can look around and see that there's people who look just like you. You will see men or women with visible racial or ethnic characteristics. You may identify with others, share interests, but this video highlights the commonality remarkably.
Hi, Nicholas, you have to unmute.
Human family. I note the obvious differences in the human family. Some of us are serious, some thrive on comedy, some declare their lives are lived as true profundity, and others claim they really live the real reality. The variety of our skin tones can confuse bemused delight, brown and pink and beige and purple, tan and blue and white. I've sailed upon the seven seas and stopped in every land. I've seen the wonders of the world, not yet one common man. I know 10,000 women called Jane and Mary Jane. I've not seen any two who really were the same. Mirror twins are different, although their features jibe, and lovers think quite different thoughts while lying side by side. We love and lose in China. We weep on England's moors and laugh and moan in Guinea and thrive on Spanish shores. We seek success in Finland, are born and die in Maine. In minor ways we differ, in major we're the same. I note the obvious differences between each sort and type, but we are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. We are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. We are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike.
On a transcendent level, something binds you to everyone around you. No matter how different they may seem, you all want to learn the subjective in a particular course. You all have valued the goals of the organization meeting you have attended, be it the resident hall, association, or a Bible study class. To truly establish a sense of we, the individuals need to let go of self enough to see these connections to others. Next slide. So we have individuality in leadership. So some of the unique perspectives and values. Individuality acknowledges that leaders bring their own unique perspectives, values, experiences, and personality traits to their roles. These individual differences shape how leaders approach ethical dilemmas and make decisions. Personal integrity and authenticity. No, go back. Yeah. Individuality emphasizes the importance of personal integrity and authenticity in leadership. Ethical leaders are true to themselves and their values, even when faced with difficult decisions or conflicting interests. Leaders who demonstrate consistency between their words and actions and who uphold their principles in all situations, they inspire trust and credibility among their followers. Ethical decision making in individuality. Individuality recognizes that ethical decision making is complex and often subjective. It's influenced by factors such as an upbringing, education, cultural background, and personal experiences. Ethical leaders are introspective and self aware. They are continuously reflecting on their own biases and motivations to ensure that their decisions align with their ethical principles and the best interests of those affected by these decisions. Next slide. So now we have commonality in leadership. So we have shared visions and values of commonality, which involves establishing a shared vision and set of values that unite individuals within an organization and guide their behavior. Ethical leaders articulate and reinforce the organization's ethical standards, creating a common understanding of what constitutes ethical conduct and fostering a sense of collective purpose and commitment to ethical behavior. Ethical leadership models in commonality is reinforced through the adoption of ethical leadership models and frameworks that promote universally accepted ethical principles, such as honesty, integrity, fairness, and respect for others. Ethical leaders serve as role models for ethical behavior, setting clear expectations for themselves and others, and holding themselves and their team members accountable for upholding the standards. So, building an ethical culture, it's reflected in the organization culture, which is shaped by the attitudes of the people in the group, the beliefs, and the behaviors of the leaders and employees. Ethical leaders actively cultivate a culture of trust, transparency, and accountability by promoting open communication, encouraging ethical decision making at all levels of the organization, and fostering an environment where ethical concerns are addressed promptly and effectively. So, balancing the individuality and commonality in leadership, it requires the leaders to recognize and respect the diversity of perspectives and values within their teams, also fostering a shared commitment to the ethical conduct. The leaders should create an inclusive environment where different viewpoints are valued. And if there's like dilemmas or um, tough decisions to make in the group, it has to be resolved through collaborative decision making processes. Also, too, by embracing both the individuality and commonality, leaders can create a culture of ethical responsibility where employees feel empowered to act with integrity and contribute to the organization's long term success and sustainability. Next slide, Lauren.
Now we talk about understanding gender diversity, gender and sex roles, childhood play experiences, sex-linked traits. Gender and sex roles. Although the phrases are sometimes used synonymously, gender roles are expectations that are socially formed and assigned labels such as masculine or feminine, whereas sex are those that stem from biology, such as pregnancy or muscular mass. For example, although only women can bear children, women are not the only sex to be nurturing of children. Historically, men's involvement in the development of children has been limited because that role has been considered feminine and nurturing. Women who are not nurturing or men who are not athletic may suffer from gender role discrimination by acting or being different from conventional paradigms.
Okay, so
This video highlights the tradition of how gender roles and sex roles were defined in the past and is still currently seen in some communities and countries. Next is the video.
okay, so we have to get you a sword, a shield, blue pants. Oh, and I can give you the mustache I wore last Halloween. Oh, come on. So what if you didn't get the role of the princess? Being a knight is awesome. At least you're not playing a tree. Gender role stereotypes are when a person is expected to act in a certain way based on society's expectations related to their gender. Traditional gender roles go back to a time when there were clear and, at times, unequal rules about how people were expected to act based on their gender. People who were born male were expected to be strong and aggressive, not emotional. and of course to love sports. People who were born female were expected to be kind and nurturing, emotional, and domestic, meaning they were all supposed to be able to cook and clean. Gender role stereotypes also affect people's understanding of who is beautiful and who is not. People still go to great lengths to try and conform to these unrealistic ideals they see in popular media. They diet, obsessively exercise, and go through plastic surgery. Additionally, strict stereotypes about gender police people's emotions. Girls are not expected to show anger, and boys aren't supposed to be empathetic, nurturing, or vulnerable. Luckily, as times have changed, so have people's expectations about gender roles. More and more people are free to behave in ways that are true to who they really are, and that is a good thing.
Till next time, don't forget to visit me at amaze.org or go to my YouTube channel to watch more. Bye!
Next, we further dive into understanding gender diversity. Where has it stemmed from? Child play experiences. As some may know, boys often play outside in rough and tumble games, and extroverted leaders shout commands in competitive settings. Winning or losing becomes very important. Most games are played using teams. Even inside games like video or computer games often have elaborate hierarchical systems with complex rules and procedures that involve dominating or annihilating enemies and are frequently preferred by boys. Girls, however, often play inside in calm settings with one another or with a small group of friends. Think about it. This is gender discrimination. Next, gender spectrum. Questions?
Yep. So gender diversity, it acknowledges that gender exists on a spectrum encompassing a multitude of identities beyond just male and female. This spectrum includes identities such as non-binary, genderqueer, gender fluid, agender, and many more. Each individual's experience of gender is unique and may not necessarily align with societal expectations or norms associated with the assigned sex at birth. A social construct versus biological sex. Gender diversity challenges the notion that gender is solely determined by biological sex. While biological sex refers to the physical characteristics such as anatomy and chromosomes, gender is a complex interplay of biological, psychological, social, and cultural factors. So the gender diversity highlights the societal norms and expectations surrounding gender roles, behaviors, and social constructs that can vary across cultures and historical contexts. Inclusive language and terminology. So understanding gender diversity involves inclusive language and terminology that respects and validates individuals' gender identities. This includes using gender neutral language whenever possible, respecting individuals' chosen names and pronouns, and avoiding assumptions about a person's gender identity based on their appearance or other characteristics. Intersectionality. Gender diversity intersects with other aspects of identity, such as race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, age, ability, and socio-economic status. These intersecting identities shape individuals' experiences of gender and contribute to unique challenges and forms of discrimination. Recognizing intersectionality is essential for understanding the diverse and complex ways in which gender diversity manifests in different communities and contexts. Some of the legal and policy implications it involves advocating for legal and policy changes that recognize and protect the rights of gender diverse individuals. This may include policies that allow for gender neutral restrooms and official documents with options beyond just male and female, as well as anti discrimination laws that prohibit discrimination based on gender identity and expression. Also, too, we have creating inclusive environments, which requires creating environments where all individuals feel safe, respected, and valued regardless of their gender identity. It involves implementing inclusive policies and practices in the workplace, schools, healthcare settings, and other institutions, as well as providing education and training to raise awareness about gender diversity and to combat these stereotypes and biases that may come about. Also, too, we have the advocacy and the allyship, which involves being an advocate and ally for gender diverse individuals, amplifying their voices and actively challenging discrimination and prejudice. This may involve supporting organizations and initiatives that promote gender diversity and inclusion. Laura?
Right. Now we move on to understanding cultural diversity. So what is culture and what is race? What is culture? Stephen Covey, 1991, author of the popular principle-centered leadership, encourages people to say, I am not a product of my culture, my conditioning, and the conditions of my life. Rather, I am a product of my value, system, attitudes, and behaviors. And those things I control. This is important, right? We would see this repeating itself over and over. This responsibility operates from a philosophy of being proactive instead of reactive. And that is a very, very essential quality in leadership. Culture, the shared beliefs, values, customs, behaviors, and artifacts that characterize a particular community, population, or nation. It encompasses knowledge, which includes accumulated knowledge passed down to generations like traditional practices, skills, and historical narratives. Beliefs, these are the shared convictions and ideas about the world, morality, spirituality, and the afterlife held by a group. Values, which was spoken about in the from the group before. These are the fundamental principles and priorities that guide a society, shaping its sense of right and wrong, good and bad. Customs and traditions, which is very important in Trinidad and Tobago. These are the customary practices, rituals, and celebrations observed by a particular group. Art and expression, this encompasses various artistic forms like music, dance, literature, visual arts, and architecture, reflecting the cultural values and aesthetics of a society. Social institutions, such as family structures, educational systems, religious organizations, and political systems, are all shaped by and contribute to a culture. And finally, language. Language is a vital element of culture, reflecting values, beliefs, and providing a framework for communication and shared understanding. Culture is not static. It is constantly evolving and adapting as societies interact with each other. Interact each other, experience historical events, and embrace new technologies. Furthermore, it is important to remember that culture is not singular. Individuals and groups within a society can have diverse cultural backgrounds and identities, enriching the overall cultural fabric. Cultural understanding fosters inclusivity and respect. Recognizing and acknowledging the value of different cultures promotes harmonious collaboration and builds stronger societies. And by understanding the various elements that make up a culture, we can appreciate the richness and diversity of human experiences and build bridges for meaningful interactions across cultural boundaries. Race from a philosophy of being proactive again instead of reactive. Now, what is race? Race is a complex concept with a troubled history. We may have different religions, different languages, different color skin, but we all belong to one human race. By Kofi Annan. Social construct versus biological reality. In the past, race was often seen as a biological classification based on physical traits like skin color, hair texture, and facial features. However, scientific advancements in genetics have shown that these physical variations do not correspond neatly to distinct biological races. There's more genetic variation within so-called racial groups than between them. Therefore, modern science views race as a social construct. It's a way of categorizing people based on shared physical characteristics. But these categories are not fixed by biology. They are created and given meaning by social, cultural, and historical forces. The historical context of race. The concept of race emerged in the 17th and 18th centuries, often used to justify colonialism and slavery. Racial categories were used to create a hierarchy, with white Europeans positioned at the top and other groups seen as inferior. This had devastating consequences, fueling discrimination and violence. The social impact of race, while not based on biology, the idea of race continues to have a significant social impact. Racial categories are used to classify people in areas like education, employment, and healthcare. People may experience prejudice, discrimination, and marginalization based on their perceived race. Understanding race and ethnicity. It is important to distinguish between race and ethnicity. Race focuses on physical characteristics, while ethnicity refers to a shared cultural identity, including language, ancestry, traditions, and customs. Someone can identify with multiple races and ethnicities. The importance of recognizing race, even though race is a social construct, acknowledging its existence is crucial to addressing issues like racial inequality and discrimination. We saw this specifically in what's going on in the what trending right now in news and stuff, but considering the KFC issue with the chairman, Mr. Mutate, saying that well, his family members saying that, doubles and KFC are on two different sides of the spectrums, when in fact they both encompass our cultural diversity, right? So understanding how race has been used historically and its ongoing societal impact is essential for creating a more just and equitable society. So what we need to consider: self-identification. Ultimately, how individuals identify racially is up to them. Mixed race. Many people have mixed racial heritage. And fluidity of race. Racial categories can be fluid and may change over time. So Tina Turner states, by honoring each other's ethnic, religious, and cultural backgrounds, we become stronger and happier, brightening the cosmic masterpiece of artwork that is our world. Rather than emphasize differences, we should be looking for similarities. Our differences are ultimately superficial, and the best thing to do is celebrate them. Beyond the visible manifestations of cultural diversity lie deeper layers that are equally important to understand and appreciate. So we'll be focusing on cultural values and beliefs and communication styles. Cultural values and beliefs. These are the fundamental principles, philosophies, and priorities that shape an individual's worldview and understanding of morality, ethics, and what is considered important in life. Cultural values can influence attitudes towards family, work, authority, gender roles, and many other aspects of society. So what are cultural values? The guiding principles are cultural values are the fundamental ideas and beliefs that a society shares about what is good, desirable, and important. They shape a community's sense of right and wrong, influencing both individual and collective decision making. Deeply embedded, cultural values have a significant impact on how people perceive the world, how they interact with others, and how they understand their place within a larger social framework. They are often passed down through generations, and it is not always explicit. Cultural values can operate at a subconscious level. People may not consciously articulate the specific values driving their behaviors and beliefs, but these values are reflected in their choices and actions. That comes about by growing up in a certain cultural environment, and eventually it just becomes the norm to you. Types of cultural values: individualism versus collectivism. Societies that emphasize individualism prioritize personal freedom, autonomy, and achievement. Collectivist societies value group harmony, cooperation, and placing the needs of the community above individual desires. Work and achievement. Cultures vary in how they define work ethic, ambition, and success. In achievement-oriented cultures, people might place high value on competition, status, and material possessions. Others might value a more sustainable work-life balance with stronger emphasis on leisure and community ties. Religion and spirituality. Spiritual beliefs or dominant religions within a culture play a major role in shaping ethical frameworks, rituals, and a society's laws. We saw this with before how um, our top medal or top countries thing was named the Trinity Cross until they changed it now to the Order Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, right? So time orientation, some cultures have a strong focus on the past with a reverence for tradition and ancestors. Our cultures are more present focused, while some are highly future oriented. Social hierarchies, cultures differ in how they view social hierarchies related to socio-economic status, gender, age, or other factors. In some cultures, there is an emphasis on deference to authority and respect for elders. Others might value egalitarianism and more casual social interactions. Family structures. Different cultures have varying views on the importance of the nuclear family versus the extended family. Some cultures place high value on multi-generational households or close ties with cousins, aunts, and uncles. So what are cultural beliefs? Specific convictions. Cultural beliefs are the ideas or convictions that communities hold to be true. These beliefs are shaped by a mix of factors, including religious doctrines, traditional wisdom, historical narratives, and shared social experiences. Framework for understanding the world. Beliefs offer explanations for natural phenomena, social events, and individual experiences. They provide a framework through which people interpret their reality and understand their place in the world. It can be positive or negative. Beliefs can be empowering, provide meaning and purpose, and foster community bonds. However, they can also lead to prejudice, discrimination, and harmful practices if rooted in superstition or misinformation. For example, voodoo in the broader aspect of things, right? How values and beliefs interact. Values shape beliefs. Core values provide a foundation for a group's belief systems. For example, a society that values collectivism is more likely to develop beliefs centered on the importance of interdependence and shared responsibility. Beliefs reinforce values. Beliefs help to perpetuate and reinforce cultural values. If a culture holds a belief about ancestral spirits, the values of honoring tradition and respecting elders are likely to be reinforced. Offer potential for conflict. Sometimes individual values and beliefs may clash with those of their society. For example, someone raised in a traditional culture that values conformity might find themselves at odds with the individualistic values of the adopted country. Cultural values and beliefs, communication styles. Cultures can differ in communication norms, including verbal directness, the use of non-verbal cues like body language and eye contact, and notions of politeness. Misunderstanding these differences can easily lead to miscommunication and misinterpretations. So verbal communication, very important in leadership. Choice of words, sentence structure, tone of voice, volume, and pace of speech. And non-verbal communication, body language, gestures, eye contact, facial expressions, use of space, and even silence. Cultural backgrounds plays a significant role in shaping communication styles. Understanding these differences is crucial for effective communication and avoiding misunderstanding in diverse settings. Dimensions of communication of cultural communication styles. Directness versus indirectness. Direct cultures such as the US, Germany, and Israel value explicit, straightforward communication. Right? Emotional expressiveness. High affect cultures encourage open displays of emotions. Speakers might use dramatic language, gestures, and passionate changes in tone. Formality versus informality. Formal cultures have a strong emphasis on social hierarchies and respect for authority. Communication often follows strict protocols using honorific titles and polite language. Informal cultures promote more casual and egalitarian interaction. First names may be used even with those in superior positions, and communication is generally more relaxed and conversational. That type of informal culture is most prominent in Trinidad and Tobago culture. Context dependence. High context cultures rely heavily on shared knowledge, verbal cues, and situational factors. The meaning of a message may not be fully contained within the word spoken. Low context cultures favor clear, direct language with less reliance on unspoken cues. And then there's the use of silence. In some cultures, silence is viewed as a sign of respect, contemplation, or an opportunity to consider one's thoughts. Other cultures may perceive silence as awkward, uncomfortable, or a sign of disagreement. So there are other factors which influence communication styles, such as language, gender, age, and generational differences, and religion. So we have effective cross-cultural communication can be obtained by increasing your cultural awareness, educate yourself about the communication norms of cultures you interact with frequently, suspend your judgment. This is important in being a leader. Avoid making hasty assumptions about people's intentions based on their communication style. Different doesn't necessarily mean wrong or ineffective. Observe and adapt. Pay attention to verbal and non-verbal cues. Be willing to adjust your own communication style to demonstrate respect and facilitate understanding. And then clarify and ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for clarification if something is unclear. Express interest in understanding a different perspective with phrases like, could you explain that in more detail? Or could you help me understand where you're coming from? And finally, practice empathy. Put yourself in the shoes of someone from a different culture. Consider how your communication might be perceived through their cultural lens. Effective cross-cultural communication is a skill that develops with practice, patience, and an open mind. Respectful engagement and a willingness to learn are key to bridging cultural differences.
Communicating across cultures.
This video will show ideas of how we communicate.
Communicating across cultures. What do we think of when we hear the word culture? Perhaps we think of food, music, dance, religion, or celebrations. We don't think of how we talk to each other and treat each other. However, sometimes you may feel confused and misunderstood when interacting with people from different cultures. Sometimes we don't understand each other because in different countries the same words, behaviors, or gestures can have different meanings. For example, in some countries yes doesn't mean that you agree, but only that you are listening. Luckily, there are tricks you can learn to communicate better and avoid difficult situations. 1. Keep it simple. Make your message clear and short. Say what you mean with kindness and calm. Take your time to explain what you are doing and thinking. 2. Mind body language. A gesture can have different meanings. For example, nodding your head means yes in some cultures and no in others. 3. Ask questions. When you are not sure about something, don't be afraid to ask questions. People are always happy to teach you something new about their language or culture. 4. Pause. Stop and think before acting or talking, even if only for 2 seconds. This will give you the time to better understand what the other person is telling you, to observe your own emotions, to choose your words. 5. Respect one's personal space. Someone may like to stand close while talking, while others will keep away. Observe at what distance you and others feel most comfortable. 5. Don't jump to conclusions. You can have your ideas about someone's behavior, but your reality may not be theirs. Take the time to get to know new environments and people. 6. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Adapting to a new country and a new language are not easy. Be proud of your efforts and learn from your mistakes. To communicate well in a different culture, you need to learn the differences. There is no school to teach you. Look at how people behave and talk. Just be curious. Be yourself. Be respectful, and enjoy the adventure. Thank you for watching.
So
So
now
now
we
we're
will be
moving on to a
doing,
little game. Here, go ahead.
yes, guys, for a little breather after all the information, we can just play a word puzzle. We just need 2 volunteers. You're just going to comment in the chat the words that you guys have created within the 1 minute. So can we have 2 volunteers, please? It's real easy.
Me, I'll volunteer.
Thanks, Renee. We need one more person. Come on, guys. Come on,
Anybody has it very
guys.
easy, trust me.
I'll go.
Okay, nice. Who is this? I'm sorry, I didn't get
Felicia.
Felicia.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's simple. Rearrange the letters to create as many new words as you can in 1 minute. Next. So this is just basically explaining the rules of the game. You're just creating words from the scramble word that we will have on the board. Next. Are you guys ready? Yes, I think you guys are ready. So the easy round, this word contains 4 letters. So when you create it as many words as you can type in the chat. Oh, Rennie was quick, very good. Salisha, you have to type in your answer. Yes, Asa, that's a computer.
Yeah. It just a moment. I'll start pressing it wrong, please.
Oh, no problem, no rush. Nice, race is. So if you're click here, I'm not gonna say do you deciphering between the two. Who has the most words? Is Alicia coming in first? Rennie? Ah. Are you guys checking? Nice. Right, so
I
we're
think
almost
she's
done
up,
under
right?
the 1 minute. Yes.
And the
So
1
Rennie
minute
is our
is up. The 1 minute is up now.
very good, guys. So for the first round, Rennie got this one.
Right.
Next round. So we have 2 other rounds. Anybody else would like to volunteer? This is a 6-letter word.
Two more volunteers, as you can see, very easy.
So it's words that you would have
I'll
found in
go.
the presentation.
All
Who
right,
is
thank
this?
you.
Thank you. I didn't get it.
Jada.
Jada. Thanks, Jada. We need one more person. Nobody wants to go for Jada. I have prizes for you guys.
I guess I'll go again. Aquí dito.
Okay, no problem, Salisha. So we have a 6-letter word. Next slide.
Yeah.
And you guys may begin. Yes.
We'll give you a minute and a half for this one, right? Since it's 6 letters.
So we sure again. That's good. You're looking good. Yeah, that's a good one. All right, so one more word to make it a tie.
30 seconds again.
Ooh, they tied. Oh my gosh. We have 2 winners for this round. Jada and Salisha. So the last round that we have, round 3. This involves 7 letters. So you just have to unscramble 7 letters and make as many words as you can. Do we have 2 other volunteers?
We think they're good enough for the hard round.
Christopher Marriage. Thank you, Christopher. One more person. We're almost there. We're almost there. Nobody wants to go with Christopher?
Take a try now, somebody. Take a try.
Janelle said she'll go. Okay, so we have Christopher and Janelle. So we may begin. Next slide. So the word you have here, we may begin. That's a good one, Janelle. Culture. Christopher, have 3 words in. You're all right.
You know, 30 more seconds.
Hot color. One more, it's gonna be ooh. Erase coming inside. Right. All right, and time is up. So let's just count to see who got the most words. I think Christopher is the winner. Thank you guys for
Well done.
taking
Thank you
part.
very much,
Well done,
guys.
well done.
Thank you.
Next, we'll be talking about understanding international diversity. Thanks so much for playing, guys.
So, understanding international diversity. Understanding how to work with people from other countries is complex but rewarding. College students can benefit from studying abroad and gaining knowledge about cultural differences and similarities among countries. Project Globe, Global Leadership and Organizational Behavior Effectiveness defines culture as a set of shared values and beliefs with 9 dimensions that differ from country to country. Assertiveness, future orientation, gender differentiation, uncertainty avoidance, power distance, institutional emphasis on collectivism versus individualism, in group collectivism, performance orientation, and humane orientation. Some countries seem to be higher in the different dimensions, such as the United States being more male dominated than England, but less than Germany. Knowledge about other countries become increasingly important as the world becomes more connected. For example, US students could improve their knowledge about other countries by recognizing their differences and working with them more effectively. An anthropologist named Rebecca Nathan discovered that the single biggest complaint international students lodged against US students was ignorance, which refers to the misinformation and lack of information Americans have about other countries and themselves. Next slide, please. So, to break down understanding international diversity, there are different subtopics in there. So, cultural diversity, it encompasses the myriad of customs, traditions, beliefs, values, languages, and norms that characterize different societies and communities globally. Each culture has its own unique practices and perspectives on family, religion, education, work, social interactions, and other aspects of life. Understanding cultural diversity involves recognizing and respecting these differences while also promoting cross cultural understanding and communication. We have ethnic and racial diversity, which includes ethnic and racial diversity, in which refers to the variety of ethnicities, races, and ancestral backgrounds present within and across countries. The racial diversity shapes the individual identities, experiences, and opportunities and can influence social dynamics. Geographical and ecological diversity. Geographical and e- ecological diversity encompasses the wide range of landscapes, climates, ecosystems, and natural resources found across different regions and countries. So factors like agriculture, industry, transportation, and tourism plays a crucial role in shaping the livelihoods and the cultures. Economic diversity. Um, it encompasses a spectrum of economic models ranging from capitalist and socialist systems to mixed economies, as well as differences in wealth, power, and access to basic necessities and opportunities. Political diversities, it includes democracies, autocracies, monarchies, and other forms of government, as well as variations in political institutions, processes, and ideologies. Religious diversity. That's just like here in Trinidad. It's very diverse in our country. Different religions and belief systems play a significant role in shaping an individual's identities, values, and behaviors, as well as influencing social norms, laws, and cultural traditions. Then we have language diversity, which is is closely intertwined with the cultural identity and heritage, and it plays a crucial role in the communication, education, literature, media, and the preservation of cultural traditions. And to tie it all in, the globalization and interconnectedness, it has facilitated the exchange of ideas, goods, services, technologies, and people across borders, leading to cultural exchange, economic integration, and geopolitical shifts. Understanding international diversity involves recognizing and appreciating the richness and the complexity of human societies and ecosystems across the globe. Next slide.
In 2019, the World Health Organization estimated that there are about 1 billion migrants in the world, nearly 1 in 8 people. This means that more than ever before, we live in societies made out of many cultures, and this diversity can be a beautiful thing. In Australia, Harmony Day is celebrated on the 21st of March each year and aims to grow inclusiveness, respect, and a sense of belonging for everyone. But the very fact that this cause needs to be fought for implies that it's not something everyone naturally does. Cultures can have very fundamental differences, and this can lead to stereotypes, prejudice, and discrimination. I spoke in a previous video lesson about how stereotypes can be understood using the tri-component model of attitudes. You can probably see how it can be applied to the way cultural groups perceive each other. It's not difficult for prejudice to occur in how individuals might think or feel about people in another group, and this can lead to discrimination in their behavior. However, some factors make prejudice more likely to happen. For example, a cultural insensitivity or lack of awareness. There are often cultural reasons why a person may choose not to eat a certain food or work on a certain day. But if someone else didn't know that, they might assume that the person was being unnecessarily fussy or lazy. Different cultures may also have different approaches to completing tasks or making decisions. For example, in Indigenous Australian culture, big decisions are only made after a majority has been reached in the clan. This can be frustrating for someone who doesn't understand this cultural norm and perhaps comes from a more individualistic culture where everyone makes their own decisions. And finally, differences in verbal and nonverbal communication styles can also result in potential conflict. All this conflict and frustration that can arise due to these factors may result in the formation of stereotypes, which in turn may develop into prejudice. When it comes to issues of cultural diversity, this prejudice may be expressed as xenophobia, ethnocentrism, and racism. Let's look at each of those. Xenophobia can be described as the fear of or strong animosity towards people of different races or cultural backgrounds. For some people, this is a default position. They're often really just afraid of the impact that the foreign cultural ideals might have on the status quo in the majority culture. However, this ends up leading to an immediate distrust of any culture apart from their own. Ethnocentrism is another expression of this, the belief that your own ethnicity or culture is superior to all the others. This can be used to justify excluding other cultures into society or wanting to stop immigrants altogether. And finally, racism, which are negative emotions or actions towards someone simply based on their race. It's similar to ethnocentrism in that there's the belief that one's own race is the most superior. In 2018, a manager at Starbucks in the United States called the police on 2 African American men in her store who were waiting for their friend to arrive for a meeting. She will later argue that they hadn't bought anything and were just sitting in the store, but the 2 men ended up getting arrested by the police and removed, although they ended up not being charged with anything. There were other customers who filmed the event and told the media that they had not bought anything either, but had not been asked to leave. Even if there were various factors at play, one of them was almost definitely the race of the 2 men. The woman might argue that she wasn't trying to be a racist, but racism can be expressed in different ways. Again, from a previous lesson, we saw that the attitudes that people hold can be explicit or implicit, visible or unseen. Explicit racism is easy to spot and unfortunately still very present in our world today. It's blatant discrimination against a group of people based solely on their race. Examples of explicit racism include the actions of hate groups, such as neo-Nazis and white nationalists, racial slurs or derogatory terms, or when people openly talk negatively about particular cultural groups. Political parties can also express racist policies and openly attack certain cultures. But implicit racism is harder to detect because it's often unconscious or concealed. However, it still ends up impacting the judgments and decisions that people make towards people from different cultures or ethnic groups. The Starbucks manager may have acted the way she did out of implicit racism. Other examples include police pulling drivers over due to the color of their skin, people mistrusting those who look different from them, juries being more likely to pronounce a suspect as guilty based on their race, and more. A month after the incident, Starbucks closed all 8,000 of the US stores for 4 hours to conduct training specifically aimed at reducing implicit racism and indeed implicit bias of any kind. Stores in Canada followed suit not long after. But was that enough? Many experts suggest that racism is embedded far deeper than a single workshop can reveal. A continued effort must be made if we're to address racism, both explicit and implicit, as one of the main challenges that cultural diversity presents. Is it possible for Harmony Day to be every day? We may not know, but it's definitely worth trying.
All right, that was a very nice video. We move on to your cultural heritage. To understand your cultural heritage, we explore different cultures, learn about aging, adult development, deaf culture, religious diversity, and regional differences. And we work with people who are different from you as effective leaders are inclusive and open-minded. Be aware of assumptions that may influence behaviors in a group and start with yourself to learn from others. This will help you understand the benefits of working with people who are different from you and contribute to the group's knowledge base. So to understand the cultural heritage and leadership, we move to promote cultural understanding, mitigate cultural bias, and facilitate cross-cultural communication. Promoting cultural understanding is recognizing and respecting diverse values, beliefs, and customs, avoiding ethnocentrism and understanding the limitations of one's own cultural perspective, facilitating intercultural dialogue, and promoting empathy across cultural differences. We move on to the values, which was explained in the from the group before. So the values are the principles or ideals we hold as important, good, desirable, or worthwhile. They are basic and fundamental beliefs that are closely to our identity, and they guide or motivate our attitudes and behaviors. Values are usually stated as a word or short phrase and are usually positive. Mitigating cultural bias. By identifying potential biases in policies, decision-making processes, and communication strategies through access to diverse data sets and perspectives. We make more inclusive decisions that benefit all individuals, regardless of their cultural background. We develop policies and practices that are fair and equitable for everyone, and we foster a more inclusive and welcoming environment for individuals from diverse backgrounds. We do this by changing our attitude, and attitude is a way of thinking or feeling towards something. It might be a stance regarding a situation, idea, character, event, or issue. Our attitudes are shaped by our values. Attitudes can be expressed through our thoughts, actions, and behaviors. And lastly, we facilitate cross-cultural communication by identifying culturally appropriate language and communication styles, suggest strategies for building rapport and trust with individuals from different backgrounds, and translate and interpret information to overcome language barriers. As stated previously, values and attitudes are separate concepts, but are frequently discussed together because they are closely connected. Values underpin attitudes, providing the foundation upon which attitudes are formed. So by doing this, values and attitudes are important concepts within your culture that you will need to understand as part of the process of developing leadership qualities. Now let's apply what we have learned by demonstrating our knowledge of personal, societal, and cultural values and attitudes, and recognizing the ways in which they could be used to improve our way of thinking. We move on to building multicultural appreciation.
Being an effective leader or participant in a diverse organization, or being a leader who brings diversity to the organization, requires that we know more about developing an openness and appreciation of various cultures and aspects of how others may differ. According to Paul Hudson, supports the idea by stating that individuals need to develop awareness, knowledge, and skills to work effectively in a multicultural environment. David Hoops presents an intercultural learning process model that describes how we develop and learn to communicate clearly and understand people and cultures that seem different from our own. So this is the intercultural learning process model that describes how we develop and learn to communicate clearly and understand people and cultures that seem different from our own. So there are 7 stages, first being ethnocentricity, awareness, understanding, acceptance, appreciation and valuing, selective adoption, and multiculturalism. So the first stage is ethnocentrism. In this stage, we believe that our own culture or our way of doing things is best, even superior to others. A human survival response that tells us our own culture is best. Individuals at this stage may exhibit intolerance and outright hostility or aggression towards others. Next, we transition into awareness phase. A first step out of ethnocentrism is this stage which involves the acknowledgement that other cultures exist and the awareness that they have a culture. The individual at this stage becomes aware that differences are culturally based and that they are part of a given people's way of thinking and acting. Next, we look at understanding. This stage involves the acquiring of knowledge and information about our cultures on a rational cognitive level. The individual begins to piece together the puzzle of the other culture from pieces of information about values, customs, etc. Occurs in a detached and separate way. Next, we look at acceptance and respect. Individuals at this stage accept the validity of other cultures without comparing or judging them against one's own culture. A change in attitude of it's okay for them occurs a relativistic approach. A live and let live attitude results and the value of other culture is for others, not me. Next, we look at appreciating and valuing. At this stage, one begins to understand that cultures have strengths and weaknesses. Such an understanding leads to appreciation and valuing of specific aspects of other cultures. A change occurs from objective to subjective, considering cultural aspects in terms of one's own identity and values. Next, we look at selective adoption. The individual at this stage tries and adopts new attitudes and behaviors from other cultures which are believed to be useful and desirable to emulate. Aspects of another culture which have value and worth for the individual personally are integrated into his or her way of thinking, feeling, or acting, and sometimes dressing as depicted in the picture. Lastly, we look at multiculturalism, an ideal state, an ongoing process where a person is able to feel comfortable in and communicate effectively with people from many cultures and in many situations. Identities, self-concepts, outlooks, and value formation transcends cultural consideration. So you are very open to new experiences. For example, cultural public holidays, as we could see within Trinidad, we take part in Pagua Festival, Shouter Baptist, Diwali, Eid al-Fitr, Emancipation, and Great Race in Tobago. Next, we'll look at some of the foods that we take part in. This line making me hungry. I hope you all are not hungry when you're seeing this. So imagine this model helping the aging culture to be more open to youth culture or the Black Student Union. This all ties into very open new experiences. Now we will have a play of the trivia quiz. So it's very easy, again, fun, sort of an icebreaker. And Nick will take over.
Yeah, so now we'll
So we
participate in
need
this trivia quiz. Very
anyone,
easy, just, excuse?
I just said anyone could volunteer. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, of course, anyone could volunteer for this trivia quiz, right? I'll just go and tell them what it's about, right? So you just treat a different type of game. You answer the question, it's a multiple choice, and just complete the word. Right? Three simple, quick games to play. Right, we can have one volunteer. Anybody? We're doing it here live one time. Anybody? One person.
Don't be afraid, guys.
Me, I'll do it.
Thanks very much. Who's that? I can see it.
Renee.
Renee.
Thanks so much,
Oh, it's
Renee.
Renee. All right, nice. Thanks, Renee. When someone believes that their own culture or way of doing things is best or even superior to others, what is it called? You remember that?
No, I don't remember.
So here's the answer.
Ethnocentrism.
Ethnocentrism.
Right? That's it. See how quick. Next was how many stages
Just
are
quick,
there?
she could-
You can
yes, she
play
could
this one to Ren. How many stages are there in the intercultural learning process model? I'm sure you remember this what we said.
Is A 7?
Yeah, correct.
Very good.
Right. So there are 7 stages, as was mentioned earlier, and what Lauren went through. And then finally, anybody, an effective person in a diverse organization. Anybody?
Leader, oh gosh.
Correct. Very good. Thanks, Ren. All right, a leader. Well, we aspiring to be, right? Leaders. Thanks for playing. We move on to attitudes towards differences.
So how we view others who are different from ourselves is complex. There's some evidence that this is a developmental or sequential process during which we move from complete unawareness as a child to some degree of acceptance or appreciation as a mature adult. Through the years, we begin to learn through positive and negative experiences. As a result of these experiences, some people learn to dislike and fear differences. In extreme cases, fears can lead to racism, homophobia, or sexism. Other experiences lead us to be appreciative and to embrace many differences. One model that applies to attitudes towards many differences is the Riddle scale.
So this is the Riddle homophobia scale, and it has different levels. Level 1, repulsion. Level 2, pity and heterochauvinism. Level 3, tolerance. Level 4, acceptance. Level 5, support. Level 6, admiration. Level 7, appreciation. And then level 8, neutrals. Cultural influences on leadership behavior. Since our cultural influences have shaped our personalities, attitudes, styles, value systems, beliefs, and opinions, no group is completely homogeneous. Relational leadership values effective leadership processes within heterogeneous groups, and since they emphasize the empowerment of followers, many leadership techniques might be categorized as participatory. However, relational and pluralistic leadership aims to alter the organization's or group's basic culture so that members recognize the variety of the group as a true asset. It is useful to examine the range of human behaviors that are essential in leadership settings. So cultural influences on leadership behavior are communication, conflict resolution, and decision making. Communication. Another way that cultural differences impact leadership is in the communication styles that are considered appropriate. In some cultures, direct communication is expected, while in others, indirect communication is more acceptable. Conflict resolution. People with a variety of behaviors, from the confrontational to the extremely subtle, may be seen. While some may advocate for accountability and taking charge, others may want to place blame. Still others may choose to maintain unity and save face. Conflict resolution is a critical aspect of relational leadership. Almost any change effort will involve some degree of conflict. Remaining focused on the purpose of the change while maintaining positive relationship is necessary. So we move on to cultural influences on leadership and behavior, right? Which are assertiveness, mediation, empathy, interviewing and active listening, accountability, creative problem solving, and facilitation. All these are important aspects, and conflict resolution skills are important to leadership values, right? Decision making, either those who attempt to include a minority opinion and respect the consensus, or those who cherish the power of majority rule and prefer voting, are reflected in the manner choices are made. In certain groups, a topic may be entirely abandoned and brought up at a later date if the group's intent is not immediately clear. Right? All communicators should constantly ask themselves, how do my perspectives and preferences shade my view? In what ways could I be understood more correctly and understand with greater insight? Communication in groups varies, with some being highly verbal, reserved, or expressive, while others are more analytical and open. And recognizing and respecting different speech communities can help participants participate competently in diverse cultures. Nonverbal communication, including physical appearance, facial expressions, and eye contact, also plays a significant role in communication. Remember again, different is not wrong, and understanding these differences is essential for effective communication. To be an effective leader, one must be able to listen, right? Listening and communicating is a pluralistic context. Listening and communicating in a pluralistic context requires one to listen with empathy, right? Empathy means you are using one person's standards and reference points to understand that person's experience. In contrast, sympathy is putting yourself in the other person's place, but retaining your own perspective and still using your own standard of judgment.
Now,
Carl
leader
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, sorry. Yeah.
Carl Rogers, the well-known psychologist, would frequently ask someone to reiterate what a prior speaker had said in order to foster empathy and listening. If instead of instantly condemning, rejecting, or refuting, this video will demonstrate, if you go to the video, this video will demonstrate the effectiveness of empathic listening. Communication.
Riley and I going to the moon. Riley can't be done with me.
Hey, it's gonna be okay. We can fix this. We just need to get back to headquarters. Which way to the train station?
I had a whole trip planned for us.
Hey, who's ticklish, huh? Here comes the tickle monster. Hey, Bing Bong, look at this. Oh, here's a fun game. You point to the train station and we all go there. Won't that be fun? Come on, let's go to the train station.
I'm sorry they took your rocket. They took something that you loved. It's gone. Forever.
Sadness. Don't make him feel worse.
Sorry.
It's all I had left of Riley.
I bet you and Riley had great adventures.
Oh, they were wonderful. Once we flew back in time. We had breakfast twice that day.
Sadness!
It sounds amazing. I bet Riley liked it.
Oh, she did. We were best friends.
Yeah, it's sad.
I'm okay now. Come on. The train station is this way.
Think of the image shown below. From what we have seen in the previous video, when you are using empathy, if you are able to see yourself understanding the experience of others from their point of view, imagining how they feel and connecting with the emotions others are experiencing when they're communicating, this is being a more effective communicator. Each element in the process, as you could see on the image, what I meant to say, what I actually said, what you heard me say, what you think I mean, what you mean to say, and so forth, shows is influenced by our cultural and gender lenses. For example, who would you say talks?
Sorry?
Yeah. For example, who would you say talks more, men or women? Common stereotypical perception is that women talk more. Yet in almost any co-educational class or setting, men likely will be the first speaker and they will speak more often for longer periods. As being an effective communicator in a leadership role, assertive communication is very important. In every communication, each person has a right to be heard and a responsibility to listen. Being assertive is doing your best to be understood rather than trying to get your way. Relational leadership does not imply that a group will follow your opinion of what will happen. Rather, it means that you have tried your hardest to value their participation, pay attention to what they truly understand, and be a valuable member of the community. This picture just depicts forms of communication. So when you're aggressive, you ask what you want. If you're passive, you think what others want. But if you have to be in a leadership role, assertiveness is where you would want to be. Lastly, we look at relational empathy. Finding shared meaning is the goal of relational empathy, which goes beyond simply comprehending another person, in which the emphasis is upon the recreation in the listener of the meaning originally created by the speaker. It may mean creating a new third culture that synthesizes the position from the two individual perspectives, culture and context, and builds a new culture and environment of empathy and insight. As sharing of context takes place, organization of diverse people start weaving a new context. On the other hand, if we believe that people will make an effort to get along, desire to confront their origins of conflict, be helpful, and accept responsibility, we approach our behaviors in a positive manner that helps to fulfill that prophecy. So lastly, I leave you with a quote. As a leader, you should always start with where people are before you try to take them where you want them to go. Quote by Jim Rohn.
So in conclusion, the difficulty of relational leadership is to be able to understand others, be understood by others, and work together to create an environment that is productive for the group or organization. Working together towards change is made easier when we have a true awareness of the influences of our gender, cultural heritage, and other differences. So generally speaking, we discover that we have more in common than not. Anticipating similarities, good intentions, and mutual goals can turn into a self-fulfilling prophecy. In any group, this awareness aids in the development of a new third culture. As a result, this leads to being an effective leader. So being an effective leader is not a static thing, it's something that you have to continuously practice and work at, and it evolves over time. Okay, thank you for listening, everyone, and these are our references.
Do you all have any questions?
Any questions? Oh, shucks.